In this video, we're going to go over the break-even analysis problem. Our problem says a manufacturing company makes bike computers. Fixed costs are $48,000 and variable costs are $12.40 per computer. The computers are sold at a price of $17.40 each. So before we get into that, we're going to go over some basic definitions here. What I want you to do is really think about what these things mean and try to write definitions in your own words. I don't want you to go to Google and Google these things and copy and paste Google definitions. That's not the point of this. The point of this is to really understand what these things mean. So our first definition is fixed costs. Fixed costs do not depend on the number of products made. So our fixed costs in this example are $48,000. That's $48,000 whether you make one bike computer or whether you make 1,000,000 bike computers. It's going to be the same regardless. And this usually includes things like rent and executive salaries, things that you would pay regardless of how many computers you are making. Variable costs, on the other hand, do depend on the number of products made. So it's a cost per product. So you'll see that word per, that means cost for each product. And when we have variable costs, we generally are multiplying them by the number of products made. And this usually includes things like materials, labor costs. So for these computers, it would be things like plastic, computer chips, things that you would be spending more money on the more computers you are making. And then our next definition here is revenue. Revenue is the amount that a business brings in from sales. So in this situation, I'm selling the computers at a price of $17.40 each. So however many computers are sold, I would multiply that by $17.40, and that would give me my total revenue. Profit is revenue minus total costs. So your revenue minus your fixed costs and your variable costs. And one thing to kind of be mindful of when you're reading the news or whatever is that you often see companies report their revenue. So you might see a company like Apple reporting revenue in billions of dollars. That's revenue, that's not profit. And so a company could have a really high revenue, but if their costs are even higher than that, then they're not making a profit, and that's not a good situation for a company to be in. So one thing to just kind of pay attention to. And then our last definition here is break even. Break even means that your revenue and your costs are exactly the same. So your revenue equals your costs, or another way to say it is that your profit is equal to $0. So you're not making more money than you're spending, you're not spending more than you're making. They're the exact same amount. So we're going to go through some example problems here. The first one is, what is the total cost of making 10,000 bike computers? So our total costs is our fixed plus our variable costs. We are adding those together to get the total amount that it costs us for the computers. So fixed plus variable. And our fixed cost in this situation is $48,000. And then it is also costing us $12.40 per computer. So $12.40 times 10,000 computers. And if you're doing this on a calculator, like the Desmos calculator or a TI calculator, you can just type this directly into your calculator. If you're using like an iPhone calculator, then you have to do the order of operations yourself, which means that you would multiply 1240 times 10,000 first, and then you would add the $48,000 to that. So if I do that, either way, I should get $172,000. And then the next question is, what is the revenue from selling 10,000 bike computers? So my computers are sold at a price of $17.40 each. Multiply that by 10,000. And the revenue that I would get is $174,000. So for the profit from selling 10,000 bike computers, that would be my revenue minus my costs. Profit equals revenue minus costs. So 174,000 minus 172,000 is going to give me a small profit of $2,000. And the next question says, how much does the company make on the sale of each bike computer? Well, if I am selling the computers at a price of $17.40 each, and it costs me $12.40 to make each computer, I can do that pretty easily. That's going to be $5 made on the sale of each computer. So $17.40 minus $12.40 equals $5. And then the last question here is, how many bike computers does the company need to make and sell to break even? So now I'm not working with my 10,000 bike computers. Now I want to know the number of computers. So I'm going to use a variable here. X is going to be number of computers. And breaking even means that my revenue equals my costs, or my profit equals 0. But it's usually easier with these to work with revenue equals costs. So I know my revenue is $17.40, which is how much I'm selling each computer for, times the number of computers made. That's going to be X. And my costs are $48,000 plus $12.40 for each computer made. So $12.40 times X. So now this is an equation that I am going to solve. So remember, when you're solving an equation like this, you want to combine like terms, get X by itself, all that good stuff. So I'm going to start by subtracting 1240X from both sides. And that's going to give me 5X equals $48,000. The 5X is how much the company makes on the sale of each bike computer. So I get kind of that same thing here. And basically what I need to know is how many computers I need to sell in order to make up for this $48,000. So I'm going to copy this up here so I have some space. And to solve for X, I'm going to divide both sides by 5. And when I do that, I should get 9,600. So 9,600 computers. When I make and sell that many computers, I am breaking even. If I don't sell that many, then I'm taking a loss. If I sell more than that, then I am making a profit.